Well, Dr. Ziya Meral is a Senior Associate Fellow at the Royal United Services Institute. He joins me now from Belfast. And can I ask you to describe perhaps first what effect this has had on the country? Of course, they're still dealing with the aftermath of these earthquakes, but how has it affected people outside of the quake zones and even Turkish people like yourself who are living abroad?
Thank you, Mariam. It's been a devastating few days for all of us. We all have family members and friends and people we know, cities and towns we visited. And watching those images obviously have an effect on all of us. Economically, things have not been well in Turkey for quite a while now. And obviously, there's a lot of concern. What happens next to Turkish economy beyond this initial kind of rush to bring aid to the areas that are devastated? What is this going to mean in the long run for everybody? We are going to see millions of people moving within the country and perhaps some leaving the country altogether. What is that going to mean for the social fabric of the country? Yes, there's clearly going to be a reconstruction phase ahead of us. How is this going to be funded, distributed, and what would the politics of this mean for people? And I think at the moment, what I see from my friends, family, and the reports that I follow is a lot of rage and a lot of confusion and numbness and a sense that this is not fair. Earthquakes are natural, but the scope of this calamity, the number of people who died, shouldn't have been this high. And I think that rage, that raw feeling will not go away in the short term at all.
You've really mentioned a wide range of different factors there. It came at a time when the economy was already deteriorating. There is now likely to be, say, accelerated brain drain or immigration as a result of this. How they're going to pay for reconstruction, and that process itself could take years. But perhaps most interesting will be the thing you just described, which is the questions that are being asked. We saw a clip of a woman in Eskandron in Hatay province giving this. She was crying really in anguish over the loss of her husband and her 5 children, and she blamed the authorities for this. What political effect is this all going to have?
Inevitably, it will. I think this is a watershed moment for President Erdogan's unprecedented position in Turkish politics. When he emerged as a party, not just him, but the AKP, it came at the back of another earthquake in 1999 and the economic fallout and social and political fallout that followed it. Is this time to declare that maybe the elections which were meant to be held in May now might very well go back to the initial timeline of June? Is this going to alter the outcome? Possibly. It is still difficult to enter into that guess in regards to voting preferences. And also you have millions of people displaced. The voting might not necessarily have integrity in this immediate future. But I think even among people who have been quite faithful in their support of the party and have quite entrenched positions in Turkey's culture wars, there are legitimate questions to ask, because obviously it's been 20 years since the last large-scale earthquake that people have been waiting for an earthquake in this same geography and on one near Istanbul as well due to the fault lines. And clearly, some buildings have collapsed, others haven't. Government itself has issued arrest warrants today.
We know that they've, as you say, they've arrested building contractors, but nonetheless, is the government going to be able, will they have to take some sort of responsibility for this? Because building codes were vastly improved since that devastating earthquake in 1999, but they weren't applied to older buildings that were being retrofitted or the newer construction buildings. So how much of a political hit is the president going to take from this?
I think he will inevitably, because the current presidential system gives him the executive powers. People are legitimately going to ask, why is it some of these building codes have been kept in some places, in others? I think there is going to be a lot more arrests and arrest warrants. And there's also going to be a further clampdown on some of the media reports, perhaps to contain some of the political fallout for this. But ultimately, I think President Erdogan's defining success or failure will be about whether he will be able to reconstruct, demonstrate a strong response to all this construction businesses in Turkey, which is very tricky for him politically, and whether he'll be able to meet the needs of millions of people who will now look up to him for answers.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time this evening, Ziya Meral.